Good afternoon. Captain Justin DeLeon here from the University of Iowa, APMS here at Iowa, and also the MS3 instructor. Today what we want to talk about is conducting a point ambush at the platoon level. So today's terminal learning objective is that the purpose of this lesson is to demonstrate a doctrinally sound way to conduct a platoon point ambush. The two references that we're using for this is ATP 3-21.8, Infantry Platoon and Squad, and also the Ranger Handbook year 2017, TC 3-21.76. So an ambush, a point ambush at the platoon level is a surprise enemy attack where we engage and destroy the enemy's main body, killing them within a defined kill zone on the objective. Also, we destroy any key equipment that the enemy has according to our commander's intent. This type of attack is typically conducted on an enemy that is moving or an enemy that has gone stationary for a short period of time. And then following actions on that objective, there's a planned withdrawal where we move to a separate location. We call up to higher for further guidance and then continue on with future operations. So let's just talk about the 4 squads again that we have in the platoon that we have to conduct this type of attack, this ambush. So first of all, again, we got that security squad. We got that assault 1 squad, assault 2 squad, and then we have our weapons squad. And this is all according to the Ranger Handbook. All right, and again, we like to use the functionality of the squads to define them and depict what they're doing on the battlefield rather than using 1st, 2nd, and 3rd squad. All right, so the way we're gonna start is we're gonna work under the assumption that we're working under the Iowa SOP and that we've established our objective rally point, or our ORP, hastily, and we're in a cigar-shaped formation. So we're gonna look at our cigar shape over here. Again, we've got a machine gun at the 12 o'clock. We have a machine gun at the 6 o'clock. That's our weapon squad. On the left, we have our assault 1 squad, pulling security all the way from the 12 to 6. And on the right, we have that assault 2 squad, pulling security from the 12 to 6 to the east or to the right-hand side. All right? And then in the center again, we have that security squad has just gone straight to the center in order to prepare for actions in the leader's recon. All right, so next, let's define in an ambush who are the right personnel to go on the leader's recon. So the right personnel, according to the Ranger Handbook, for the leader's recon. Obviously, we got the PL, and we have his RTO. We have all 4 squad leaders. All squad leaders, according to the Ranger Handbook, go on the leader's recon. All right, and then also, we have to have some type of security element. All right, so this is where I'm going to throw in a little bit of SOP. Something that a lot of people do is they don't take their entire security squad on the leader's recon. They only take the minimum number of security. All right, all the Ranger Handbook says is that a security element of some kind has to go on the leader's recon. In order to minimize any confusion, the way I always do it is I take my entire security squad on that leader's recon. It sounds like a lot of people, but those security squad members aren't going to actually physically go up to the road. They're not going to compromise the objective. They're going to go conduct their function on the objective to the left or the right, flank security. So I just take the whole squad, and I think it works out best that way. So I take the whole security squad. All right, and since here at the University of Iowa, we have our security squad first in order of movement, that alpha team leader, that point man who did all your route planning, is also encompassed in your security squad. So he is automatically in there as well. Just a caveat, if your security squad, if you do not put the point man in the security squad, then you have to bring him as well if he was an assault 1 or assault 2. All right, but since he's encompassed in here, I'll just mark him underneath here, but he is part of that security squad. All right, so we're gonna have all these people in here for the leader's recon. I'm gonna put an LR to define that. So really what's happening in the leader's recon, prepping for that inside the ORP is we're prepping men, weapons, and equipment. In the old FM 7-8, there was a huge list of steps of everything that used to happen in Leader's Recon. Newer doctrine with the Ranger Handbook and 321.8 has left a lot of this up for your decision as the PL of what needs to happen in there. There's not as many defined steps, but there's some key things that we have to do. The biggest one is obviously prepping men or women, and the biggest way we do that is by camouflaging. This is one of the biggest things that we fail to do in the ORP. A big style. I'm talking camouflaging, obviously redoing our face paint, which is a key part, but we're camouflaging our uniforms. We're putting in grass, we're putting in branches, we're putting in leaves inside our entire uniform, inside our helmet, everything we can do to break up our signature as we're on that objective. That's a key part, and it should be a priority in that leader's recon when we're prepping. All right. Also, prepping weapons. If there's any weapons that need to be traded hands and equipment. All right. Biggest thing we're going to talk over here is camo and claymores, especially on an ambush. So in an older Ranger handbook, I think year number 2010 or something, there was actually a standardized way to lay out all this equipment in an ORP. In the new Ranger handbook, it's not defined. However, a great SOP that we can still use is where we actually lay out a poncho in that leader's recon. We lay out a poncho and we lay out every single item of equipment in there. And we literally inventory everything that the platoon has. All radios, all claymores, all special weapons, maybe AT4s, whatever we need that we're going to take on that objective, it's all laid out there and we can then distribute appropriately. All right, so the biggest thing that we need to distribute is claymores. We need to make sure that whatever squad we want, whether it's assault or support, has claymores, and if we have enough extra, we're probably going to distribute those to the security squad as well, as they can better protect our flanks to prevent enemy movement onto the objective. The biggest thing, however, is our radios. So let's talk over real fast what radios look like, and we're going to go back up here to our squads. So typically, in a platoon, we're going to have 6 radios, and these are the people that are going to have those 6 radios. You're obviously going to have the PL, the platoon sergeant, your security squad leader, assault 1, assault 2, and weapons squad leaders. 4 squad leaders, PL, PSG, are the individuals that are going to have radios throughout that patrol. Here in that leader's recon is where we need to separate those into where we can use them most effectively on the objective. So the people that need to have them on this objective, again, this is a little SOP driven. However, this is where it's going to be most effective to get your results on the objective. So that PL and PSG are obviously going to keep their radios. That security squad leader is going to keep his radio, and that weapons squad leader is going to keep his radio. Because typically, more times than not, they're going to have to be able to operate individually with themselves and be able to communicate straight to the PL platoon sergeant. That assault 1 and that assault 2 squad leader, those are typically options where you can take radios from them and assume risk, because typically that PL is going to be co-located with that assault 1 and that PSG is going to be co-located with assault 2. Or that PL might be co-located with both and be able to control both. So those are typically the 2 squads that you can take radios from and reallocate to your security teams. So on your objective, you're going to have a left security team and a right security team. Those security teams need to have those radios so they can communicate effectively with the PL throughout the entire operation. All right. So once we've distributed all those comms, we've prepared our men, weapons, and equipment, we feel confident that we got everything we need to go into that leader's recon, we're going to start moving out towards our objective. So we're going to play here. We got our road. And we're going to work through, if we're conducting, and under the assumption that we're doing a linear ambush today. So we're going to move that leader's recon out of the 12 o'clock. And the biggest thing we need to do here, obviously, is move through that platoon sergeant. That platoon sergeant is going to position himself in a funnel-like formation, typically with his medic, where everyone has to move through his location. We're going to move through him, and he's going to count everyone out individually. The key thing that the platoon leader is going to provide that platoon sergeant is that 5-point contingency plan, or that GALA. So he's going to give those 5 contingencies when, if anything happens, and that platoon sergeant then is going to, 1, disseminate that information to all personnel and help make sure that all personnel within the ORP understand where the leader's recon is going and what they're doing. All right, so that leader's recon has departed. They're going to move tactically to their initial point, which is a release point. All right, so real fast, let's talk about actions in the ORP. So that leader's recon is being conducted. So actions in the ORP that the platoon sergeant is going to begin conducting. One very important thing is he's going to be conducting that ruck plan, establishing that in the center, making sure everything's organized and ready to go. Second, he's going to be probably identifying a security team that is going to stay back. And that security team does not have to come from the security squad, but from Assault 1 or Assault 2, or wherever the PL designates it, that's going to stay back and maintain security on that ORP once they left. Lastly, he's going to continue to improve security. This leader's recon might be an 1.5 hour to 2 hour operation. It could be a long-term thing depending on how much time the PL has allocated this in his plan. So they're going to be in a secure position for a long period of time. What we got to do is identify, dead space. They got to do those range cards and all those things to identify where's their dead space at, how do they best conduct their sectors of fire, everything that goes into planning full security in an operation, sector sketches and such. So if he does have some claymores back here that he can utilize still, he can place those in as well to protect that element from dead space. So the platoon sergeant's taking care of all that. And again, yes, he did lose all his squad leaders because all his squad leaders on the leader's recon, but the platoon sergeant is effectively working with all the team leaders here from those Assault 1, Assault 2, and those machine gun teams. So that squad leader, that platoon leader has then moved to this release point. Staying in comms with the platoon sergeant, he lets him know, hey, I'm at the release point. My first step that I'm going to take is I'm going to pinpoint that objective. All right. So what the PL is going to do is he's going to move forward with his RTO and a 2-man team from his security squad. So that security squad leader is going to give up 2 personnel. Typically, the best personnel that we want to use for this is a SAW gunner, a 249 gunner, and also a grenadier with a 320 mic or 320 mic grenade launcher. They're going to move forward and they're going to pinpoint the objective. So they're going to identify the road, identify that they see where the road's at and a good spot for it. And they're going to put in what's called their SNO, or your surveillance and observation point. All right. So that surveillance and observation point, I'm going to erase this and just put SO, is that location where we can place that SAW gunner and that grenadier where they can maintain eyes on the objective at all times. And the reason we do this is because we want someone to have eyes on that kill zone. So in here, when he's placing his SNO team, that PL is identifying, yep, I see the objective, I see where a good kill zone is, I see where I want my left and right limit of that. Hey, SNO team, in place here, maintain eyes on the objective, maintain eyes on my kill zone, and let me know if anything changes. Also, what that SNO team provides and why we use a SAW gunner and a grenadier is that provide firepower in case something happens during the leader's recon on the objective. They can then conduct suppressive fires, both direct and indirect, that allow people to break contact off that objective. All right, so we got our SNO team in place, maintaining eyes on. From here now, let me move this road out a little bit. From here now, the PL's main priority, once he's identified where the objective is he needs to now identify where the assault element needs to go and the support element. So that's the key part. You got 3 main key parts to ambush. You have security, assault, and support. A lot of times what I see people doing, especially cadets, is they move up to the objective and they say, oh, yep, there's the road. I see the objective. Okay, I'll probably put assault over there. I'll probably put support over there. Good to go, man. Let's head back. All right. Obviously, that's not an effective leader's recon, and people have not identified where they want individual bodies. All right. It's lazy. So we need to allocate the time. This is the most important part of any single operation, is that leader's recon. So allocate the time properly. This should be the longest part of your operation. Okay, so he's placed in the SNO team. Now what he needs to do, doctrinally, according to the Ranger Handbook, before he can go in and recon his assault and his support by fire positions, that PL has to establish full security in that objective. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do this, and a lot of it is time dependent. All right, what the Ranger Handbook says is that the PL emplaces his security. That's what the Ranger Handbook says. It does not necessarily say that the PL personally walks security to each location and establishes them. Now, if the PL feels that he has the adequate time available, yeah, great opportunity for him to actually physically walk security to the left and walk security to the right and place them. However, a lot of times we don't have the time to do that. So trust that security squad leader and give him your intent at that release point. Show him on the map where you want his security to go to the left. Give him a good description on the right according to the map. Do some terrain analysis. Make sure they can see around curves. Make sure they can see over hills. If we got this road coming this way and it curves out this way, obviously I don't want visibility to start right there. I want visibility to start on the back side of this road. So I want people looking out that way. So the point is do some critical thinking about where you want that security to be. Don't just say, hey man, go establish right side security or go establish left side security. You need to critically think where you want that security to be in place, and really what you need to provide them is intent on what and where you want them to be able to observe. Okay, so let's say the PL only has about an hour to recon. He doesn't feel he has the adequate time available, so he makes a call. He says, hey, security squad leader, I want security to be in place to the left and the right. This is where I want them to be. This is where I want them to be able to observe. He gives them everything they need. Okay, he then moves back and gives that S&O team their GOTWA, so they know what to do if contact happens. Moves back, gives the direction to the security squad leader, and then security to the left goes and in places. So we got left side security over here in placing. He tells the same thing to the right, and they go in place to the right side security. All right. Once they in place, they call back their grid. They call back what they can see. The PL ensures, all right, that those security teams can see what he wants them to see, and they can observe where he wants them to observe. All right, SOP's time. What I like to do as well is I usually got about a 3-man team on the left, a 3-man team on the right, and then that security squad leader moves forward and establishes himself with the S&O team. The reason why I like to do that is because now I have an S&O team with a security squad leader, so that security squad leader has a radio, remember. The left side security has a radio, and the right side security has a radio. So now I have eyes on the left, eyes on the right, eyes on the center, encompassing that entire objective, and they can all talk back and forth to each other, and they can all communicate with the PL directly. So I think that's the best setup for an objective. A lot of times what people do on the SOP side, what people do is they leave that security squad leader back in the ORP, and they take his squad from him and basically throw him on the objective. I believe in making that squad leader, that security squad leader, responsible for securing the objective, empowering him and giving him control of that. That way the PL doesn't have to worry about it all, and he's monitoring that the whole time. Okay, once security is in place to the left and the right, and I am confident that the objective is secure, then and only then, as the PL, am I able to start conducting my reconnaissance of my assault and support positions. According to Ranger Handbook, I cannot recon those on a deliberate ambush. I cannot recon those until security is set and I'm confirmed that that's true. Okay, so I've confirmed that that's true. I'm then going to move to my assault and support position. So obviously this is terrain dependent. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I probably have a decent idea. So let's say I go and move up and I begin to cloverleaf to the left, to the right, again, conducting that recon, all right? The best way, and the reason why we do that cloverleaf again, is it's harder for someone to see you if you're walking slowly towards them and the environment's not changing. Whereas if you're moving side to side, the environment is changing constantly around you and it's easier to identify you. So moving out, moving in, moving out, moving in. And you're looking to identify that support by fire position. All right, again, on this one, it's up to you as the PL who you want to take to your left and to the right. In my opinion, the best leadership recons are where a platoon leader takes all 4 squad leaders with him, or correction, all 3 squad leaders with him, his support and his 2 assault squad leaders. That way, those assault squad leaders can see where the support is, they can see their view, their fields of fire and observation, and same with support. Support can see where the assault elements are going to move through the objective so they can better provide suppressive fires to them. I think this is the best way to do it, and the most successful operations I've seen at Ranger School and at Advanced Camp, and I think in real life, is where all those squad leaders see where everyone's at and they can effectively, really manage themselves better because they know. All right, at this time, the PL doesn't even need to do that much talking. Those squad leaders can actually identify where they're going to be and they can talk it out. So let's say they move all 4 of them to the left and they identify, hey, this is a great area for our support by fire position. This is where we're going to place our guns. Great. Again, all the squad leaders can sit there and talk. They get down on the ground. They actually see the line that those 2 40s are going to look through, and they identify, hey, this is where I want my stuff. All right. Every single person sees it. The assault or the weapons squad leader feels confident that all the weapons will be able to move there effectively and occupy the positions. All right, so they move back all the way back to that S&O position. All right, they check in with him again, give him another GOTWA and say, okay, we identified that support by fire position to the left. We're now going to move to the right. All right, so now they go this way and they identify where they want their assault positions. Again, what I'm going to call it is it's 1 assault position, but it might encompass 2 assault squads. This is where it comes into how you want to do your operation, and it depends on the size of the objective. You might say, hey, I got an assault position here and an assault position here. My assault 1 is going to go there, and my assault 2 is going to go there, and they're going to both assault through the objective. You might identify on the operation that, hey, there's only enough room due to the terrain and the surrounding area. There's only enough room for 1 squad. So, hey, I'm only going to have assault 1 here, and assault 2, I'm going to keep you at the release point, or assault 2, I might even leave you back at the ORP as a reserve. All right, there's different ways to allocate your squads. You basically have these elements, and you can use them as you see fit. For today, what we're going to do is we're going to pretend like we don't have a reserve, or we don't have the need for a reserve. So we're going to say we identified that, hey, we have a large kill zone. We're expecting a potentially large enemy force, so we want as many weapons oriented on the objective as possible. So we're going to have an assault 1 squad and an assault 2 squad all on the line. Okay, so we identified that. The weapons squad leader was also able to see where these guys are. Again, what these guys are doing is they're defining their different areas of operation, defining where they're going to set in. Those squad leaders are looking and finding individual fighting positions, getting down, making sure they can see, making sure they have fields of fire, all right, and observation of the objective itself, of that kill zone that was defined by the PL on the objective. All right. Another thing what they're doing, all those squad leaders, is they're talking through TRPs. They're making target reference points on the objective where maybe that support by fire position is going to start firing, and you have a tree on the backside that's TRP1. You have a tree on the backside here, TRP2. Over here you have TRP3. And they're talking about different control measures. Maybe to begin the attack, those weapons are going to be firing between both TRPs. Then maybe we'll call a shift fire, all right? And these weapons will only fire between TRP2 and TRP3. And then once A1 and A2, or assault 1, assault 2, begin moving through the objective, all right, they'll be lifting fires and completely, or now lift and cease fire are doctrinally the same thing. They will can quit firing on the objective. So they're talking through all these contingencies, all these different control measures, everything that they're going to be doing on the objective, and they all understand where their different kill zones are, where their different aiming points are, everything down to the lowest detail, all right? Again, on here, I'm kind of working on the assumption right now that we might not have fires. However, if we do have fires, all right, and we have a forward observer, or that PL is planning those fires, he's integrating that into the plan as well. We're putting in targets maybe on the back side to help us withdraw or to deny enemy withdrawal. All right, we're putting targets on the kill zone if we want to help that initiate the ambush and we think we're going to be far enough away. We're using those integrated with the plan as well. All right, so a lot of times you may not get the opportunity to use targets on the battlefield, but if you do, definitely incorporate them. All right. As this is all going on, something that's left security and right side security is continuing to do. They're continuing to improve their position as well. Okay, so they might have a security established, but if they have that claymore, they might move forward and position a claymore near the road where they can effectively stop enemy movement on the objective. All right, when I say stop, I mean block or prevent. So once the PL feels confident that they've identified that support by fire and both assault positions, they're then going to move back to that S&O position, and they're going to leave a GOTWA with that security squad leader. So they're going to talk to him and say, hey, security squad leader, we identified our support and our assault positions. We feel confident that we know we can hit this objective. you are now in charge of this objective. Please maintain security on here and let us know if anything on the objective changes. Obviously, that's why we keep eyes on. If something changes on the objective, if a tank rolls in, if we see an enemy platoon roll in, things are going to change, and we're going to have to, either move off the objective, or we're going to have to request more assets to effectively destroy the enemy. All right, so we're going to move. What's remaining of that leader's recon should be the PL, the RTO, and those 4 squad leaders. That element is going to move back to the ORP. All right, they're going to move through that platoon sergeant. That platoon sergeant, again, is going to make a funnel and count them in. All right. Once they get back to that ORP, there's some key things that are happening there. All right. Again, if we need any additional prep of men, weapons, and equipment, now that we've seen the objective and we've seen what's going on, that's got to happen. Also, what we need to do is we need to disseminate information that we saw on the objective. Maybe the objective looks a little different than we originally planned. Maybe we thought we were going to do the actions on the objective out of an L shape, and now it actually makes more sense to do a linear shape. Whatever has changed, we need to make sure we draw that out, we do our quick terrain model, we do whatever we need to do to disseminate that information down to the lowest soldier on the line, so they all know the changes and what the attack is going to look like now. Okay, once we got that all disseminated, we're ready to actually execute actions on the objective, we're going to begin moving towards the objective. So we're going to get up as a platoon, all right, and we're going to move forward to that objective. So we'll move forward through the platoon sergeant again, and we're going to move to that release point. What I'm going to do at that release point is I'm going to establish a short halt, or a short security halt, and put everyone there. All right. At that point, I'm then going to go talk to the security squad leader. I may physically move to that security squad leader position. I may not. If I have good comms with him and I feel confident that he has positive eyes on still, I may be good there. But what I need to do is get a quick situation report from him. Identify what has changed on the objective. Has anything changed on the objective? Do you feel that we're still set up for success? He's likely going to tell you, yes, set up for success, good to go. All right, and so then we're going to say, Roger, let's continue with the operation. All right, so the first element from this point that now goes onto the objective is going to be that support by fire squad, which is going to be your weapons squad. Okay, so that weapons squad leader is going to move through that release point, and he's going to move and in place his support by fire position. All right, so we're going to have that weapons squad there. Now, that is a pretty large operation. All right, he's going to have to set in his tripods with his AGs, his assistant gunners, and he's then going to have to put his guns on. All right, which sounds easy, but it actually takes a lot of work, especially to set up the correct metal to metal on those tripods. The biggest thing that he needs to do is the moment he gets to that point, he needs to put both of his guns down on bipods. Once they're down on bipods, now we at least have suppressive fire that can, or we have those 2 weapons that can provide suppressive fire on the objective. All right. At no time should both guns not be focused on the objective and trying to fiddle into the tripods. Only one goes into the tripod at a time, so that we have at least one gun able to suppress that objective at all times. All right. So once those tripods get set up, we can then hook the guns in one at a time, so one's always focused. All right. Things to think through here as well is talking through how we're going to feed that belt of ammunition into the 240. Is it laying in the dirt? Do we lay out ponchos underneath the guns so the rounds rest on the ponchos? How are we doing this to keep this the best operation we can and to keep the grounds clean? All right. So we just need to think through that. Again, that's more SOP driven on your unit. But what I recommend is making sure you don't have rounds laying in the dirt feeding into the gun. All right, once we are confident that the support by fire position is in and its fires are going to be oriented towards the objective and they're ready to roll, all right, then that assaulting element made up of 1 squad, 2 squads, however you've made it, they can start moving into their position, okay? And the reason we always put in the support by fire position first is so that we have a element with 2 large machine guns that can suppress the objective, all right, in case those assaulting elements, who are typically going to try and get closer to the objective, they may come in contact with the enemy, and if they do, we have a large element that can suppress so that they can break contact out the objective. That comes in a little more play, and it's a little bit more important on a raid, but it also applies to the ambush. All right, so that PL, along with those assault squad leaders, goes in and helps them set in place. Assault 1 and Assault 2. All right, once they're in place now, and again, they're in place very deliberately. Those squad leaders are likely telling each individual soldier where to go, or really they're telling their team leader, hey, team leader, I want your 4 men at these 4 trees. Hey, Alpha Bravo team leader, I want your 4 men at these 4 trees. Very deliberate occupation of this. And the PL is there likely behind it. All right, so let's talk real fast about PL, PSG. All right, doctrinally, according to the Ranger Handbook, the PL and the PSG can go wherever they want to go during this operation. They don't have to go into the consistent where you've always heard that the PL always has to go with the assault, and the PSG always is with the weapons. All right, different practices, different ways to do it. I still recommend, I think it's actually a very wise thing for the PL to be with the assault because then he has eyes on the foremost forward element of what's going on. Another way to do it though is he can be somewhere else where he has better visibility of the kill zone to initiate the ambush. 2 ways I've seen it done. A lot of people put the platoon sergeant up here with the weapons squad. All right, but again, remember that weapons squad leader is your most senior squad leader, and he also has a radio and has communications. So another thing which you can do, which I like to do if I'm taking 2 squads in the objective, is I put the PL with the Assault 1, I put the PSG with Assault 2. Again, if you only had 1 squad here and you left your Assault 2 back in the rear as a reserve, then yeah, by default the platoon sergeant is just going to probably go with the weapons squad and be with that support by fire. But this is a set that I've used before and I've had success with it. But again, there is no doctrinal place for them to be. It is based on your decision, based on the circumstances and the environment that you're in. Okay, so throughout here, wherever the PL wants to as well, he's setting up claymores. If he wants his assault squad to set up the claymore so he has control over it here, that's fine. If he wants claymore set up here by support by fire with them having control, that's fine. But again, the main thing is that we have to plan that when enemy moves into our kill zone, excuse me, when the enemy moves into our kill zone, we are going to destroy them right away with the most casualty producing weapon. That is the standard, that is doctrine, the most casualty producing weapon. So that means claymores, if you have them, number 1, you could potentially argue an AT4 if the enemy is mounted. All right, after that is the 240 Bravo, and then after that is a personal weapon of some kind, or maybe as a saw. But the point is that a lot of people these days are really scared to initiate ambushes with open bolt weapons, and they try and teach that that's not correct. And in fact, that is wrong. Initiating an ambush with an open bolt weapon is still acceptable. It just means you better clean your weapons and make sure they're ready to fire. All right, so now that our ambush is set, we'll probably call up to hire, let them know that our ambush is established and we're ready to go. All right, the biggest role at this time that right side security and left side security have on this objective is that they are there to provide early warning to the PL. They are there to let them know that if enemy is moving on this objective from the right, all right, 1, what's his direction of travel? How big are they? Do they have any potential secondary elements? A lot of times what smart enemy forces will do is they send forward a reconnaissance element of 2 to 3 personnel, and then 400 meters back, you have their main body, which is a full 2 squad element or something. So what those security squads, or that security element on left and right, have to make sure they do is they're trying to identify the enemy's main body, not just the first enemy to walk by them. All right. So once they've identified that, let's say they're moving in from the right. All right. He calls the PL. PL is tracking. Hey, enemy is moving in from the right. It's eight individuals with small arms. I believe that this is their main body. I assess this is their main body. PL says, Roger, make sure that information is disseminated throughout the entire platoon. All right. Once that enemy moves into the kill zone, I'm going to use a black marker to look at the enemy here. Once that enemy moves into the kill zone and hits a specific TRP that the platoon leader has defined, they're going to initiate the ambush. Again, they're going to initiate with that claymore or a 240 or an AT4 if it's a mounted, that most casualty producing weapon. So they're going to initiate fire on that enemy. All right. Again, now there's no defined way to fire here. There's no defined like, hey, it's 30 seconds, everyone firing, and then everyone stops and we do a reassessment. It's based on the PL on his assessment of that objective. But for sure, again, that support by fire is likely firing through all these TRPs. All right. that Assault 1 and that Assault 2 are also firing, doing their best to provide crossing fires, inflating fires along that objective, and making sure that we have ultimate crossfire to kill all those individuals. All right. Once we're confident that the enemy on the objective is destroyed and that they're killed, we then are going to look into beginning to assault this objective. So what I'll say is, on a linear objective, I'm going to redraw this real fast. On a linear objective or linear ambush, a lot of times we may not have to shift fires, but we're always going to have to lift or cease fires. So we're going to begin assaulting through this objective. All right, at some point, we're going to shift if necessary, and at some point for certain, most likely our last covered and concealed position right here, we're going to lift fires / cease fires. Our assaulting elements are then going to move to the back side. They'll assault through this objective and move to the back side. All right? They want to move to the last or the first covered and concealed position past 35 meters. So they want this distance from the kill zone to be at least 35 meters. And the reason is that's the hand grenade throwing range. All right? So we're going to get outside that range and we're going to establish what we call that limit of advance. All right? So they're going to call their LOA. All right? Now, if we're doing a squad attack or, sorry, a platoon attack, a lot of times we have that assault element moving through, and then we have another element moving down through it as well. All right? Here, a lot of times, especially with a linear ambush, we only have one element assaulting through the objective and reaching that LOA. All right? Because it doesn't really do us any good to have this support by fire or 2 machine guns assaulting through the objective. So once they've moved to the opposite objective, they're calling the LOA. There's specific steps they're doing now. The one is establishing security. So what they're doing is they're looking down those flanks and making sure they got security down the road this way and security down the road this way. And likely what they're doing is we're moving our saws to either side. So we have sufficient firepower looking down the road on either side. Okay? Obviously keeping in mind where the right and left side security actual elements are to make sure that we don't have potential for fratricide. Once that's complete, all right, team leaders are moving along and getting those lace reports. So we're getting lace reports. Again, liquid, ammo, casualties, equipment, making sure we're up on all, identifying what we're black on. All right, and once we got that, then the PL wants to start working about additional security on the objective. So the main thing that he's going to be doing first is identifying those enemy EPWs. All right, so he's calling in his EPW teams, his enemy prisoner of war search teams, clearing and search teams. Okay, again, that's up to the PL how many of those teams he wants to have. Typically we have 2. We have a primary and alternate, and usually we're going to call in both, especially if we have 8 or 9 enemy KIAs. So what they're going to do is they're going to identify those enemy KIAs and they're going to move them off to the side of the road. They're going to make sure they don't stay in the center of the road, because this road is still a linear danger area where someone could look down the entire road a mile out and likely identify friendly forces on the road. So we're going to drag those off to the side of the road and make sure they're cleared. Okay? We are not going to search them right away. The point is we need to clear them, all right, so we can do other actions on that objective as well. Until we clear all those enemy EPWs, all right, that objective is not clear. That objective is still seen as hostile. So once we clear all those EPWs, all right, then we can start working on other priorities of work. So once they're all clear, we can then call in our aid and litter if we have other friendly casualties, or we can call in something else that we need to get done on the objective. All right, and then once they're clear, those EPW teams can begin searching and actually looking to identify PIR. Anything we, maps, commo equipment, any CBRN, anything like that that we've identified as PIR for our objective. So we got EPW here working on searching and calling out. All right, there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's black and gold ways. I'm not going to go in depth on EPW and searches here, but they're doing EPW operations. All right, aid and litter. Let's say there's a CCP here, and there's any friendly aid and litter. They've moved to this location. All right, and they're prepping them for, if they need a medevac, they're prepping them for either ground or helicopter or air medevac of some fashion. All right. Objective's looking messy now. There's lots going on. That PL is calling up reports. He's letting higher know what's going on. He's letting higher know any initial things that they found, the number of enemy POWs, that they have live or killed. He's identifying all this information and relaying it up. All right, but the most important thing that's on his head is a ticking time of when they need to get off the objective. So that RTO typically, or someone else that's been identified, is calling out time that they've been on the objective. A lot of times, different units have different standards. The standard that we used at Ranger School was 7 minutes. You don't like to be on an ambush site for more than 7 minutes because there might be another enemy force nearby, or there might be someone else that is able to counterattack and try and move to that location. So we want to get on and off this objective as soon as possible. Again, we have a planned withdrawal here. Okay, so we finished EPW operations, we finished all aid and litter operations, and now it's time to move off the objective. So let me try and organize this a little better real quick. All right, so we got our Assault 1 and our Assault 2 here. All right, we've got our support over here. Something I want to bring up as well that our support can do is our support can easily move down to the road and put those 240s on the road as well. One facing up this way and one facing up this way, so that they can actually provide more security on the road. So they don't have to be standing back here, but that is at the PL's discretion. All right. So once it's time to move off the objective, all right, according to the Ranger Handbook, we move off the objective in reverse order that we occupied it. So we use some type of SOP that we have to withdraw off the objective. All right. The best way that I've seen is using code names for different people getting off. So most importantly though, the PL communicates to his platoon sergeant and says, hey man, we're about to move off this objective. It's time. What do you think? Platoon sergeant agrees, says, yeah, roger, sir, let's move off. The platoon sergeant then centers himself at a point on the objective. All right, a lot of times it says he can go to the release point. In my opinion, especially during periods of darkness or nighttime operations, it is hard to find that platoon sergeant unless he's at a very easy identifiable location to find. So I like him being somewhere right on the edge of the objective. He puts himself there with the medic, all right, and he says, PL, we're ready to do it. All right, so the PL, the platoon sergeant, whatever they do within their platoon, calls that first withdrawal code name. Something we do here at the University of Iowa is we use red, white, blue. All right, so we use red. So red is the last people that occupy that objective. So this entire assault element, Assault 1, Assault 2, they're going to move through the platoon sergeant, okay? The platoon sergeant is going to count them off the objective. They can either move to the release point or they can move all the way back to the ORP. It's kind of dependent, again, on the PL's discretion. What I would say is at periods of darkness, nighttime, I would definitely have them halt at the release point. During daylight operations, if you feel confident with them, yeah, maybe they can move all the way back to the ORP. But definitely during the night, only go back to the release point or else you're going to lose someone. I guarantee it. All right, so they move back to the release point, let's say, occupy a secure location there. All right, then he says, once all of them are off and they've been counted, boom, red. Sorry, he said red, he's going white next. Going white. All right, that's support. Whether they're on the objective now or they're still on that location here, they're going to move through the platoon sergeant. That whole support element is going to move through the platoon sergeant and move back and occupy a section of that security halt at the release point. All right, and then lastly is blue. On blue, two things are happening. On blue, that security squad is moving in through the platoon sergeant. When I say security squad, I also mean that security element that was out there on the left and the right. And lastly, anything that was identified, if we have weapons, we got radios, anything that the enemy had that we don't want, that is the time for the demo team to plant their charges and to blow it. All right? So they plant their charges, they blow, and the PL says roger, and the demo team and the PL move through the platoon sergeant and go back to the release point as well. Platoon sergeant and medic follow them. And now we basically have a little security halt at the release point, ready to go back to the ORP and pick up our rucks. All right, we move back to the ORP, we pick up our rucks. We can either decide to stay there, hang out there, call hire for guidance to move to a patrol base, to move to another operation, whatever it may be, or maybe we've already defined that from this location we have a patrol base down this way, 800 meters, and we begin movement there the moment we pick up those rucks. All right, so that's kind of how the operation ends. Again, one of the two biggest things here is that leader's recon, and then something that makes this go to crap is your withdrawal off the objective. You could see kind of how messy it looks. I was trying to draw it the best way I could, but the point is that if you do not have a very systematic approach with some type of code words that everyone understands, a standardized way, it doesn't have to be red, white, blue, it could be another way, but if you don't have that systematic approach implemented with every single person understanding what every single word means, it's going to go to crap, all right? So make sure you have that approach defined, that systematic approach defined in an SOP for your specific unit. So I think that pretty much covers platoon point ambush. Went into a lot of detail on some specific things, but I think that'll help you. If you brief at this level of detail, especially at advanced camp, I think it's going to serve you very well. If you have this level of understanding, you're going to be able to conduct this operation, especially when things are thrown at you at the last minute. You're going to understand the intent of each individual piece and understand how important that leader's recon as well is to support the main operation. So the purpose of today's lesson was to demonstrate a doctrinally sound way to conduct that platoon ambush, platoon point ambush. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps. I hope it wasn't too messy. Again, this is Captain Justin DeLeon from the University of Iowa. Rangers lead the way.